Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Mr. Guines.
There we go.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. McGilvery. All in favor? It's a 5-0 vote. Mr. Shoemaker is making his way to the front of the room. All right, mayor's report.
No report.
No report. Council reports, Mr. Guines?
None.
Ms. Newman? Mr. McGilvery?
No, sir.
Mr. Glavin?
I have none.
Mr. Shoemaker?
I have nothing.
And I have nothing. That brings us to the policy agenda. We're going to be discussing some departmental budgets today, and hopefully we'll get through all of them. We may not. Move on to capital projects, and if we still have a little time, maybe we can kick around some non-departmentals. Possibly. That being said, we left off with Public Works. And thank you, Mr. Allen, for being here. We didn't get to you the other day. You were all dressed up with no place to go, but we're here today. Is there anything you'd like to say for openers?
No, not really.
Not a
Just
thing.
give y'all a little input on what we got.
Okay.
You're missing your tie.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Y'all got there is a total amount of employees that we have at Public Works. As you can see, we got a total of 81 as of 8/27/24. Out of the 81, there's 19 openings, and it's very hard to keep people. We had 10 call in today. Out of the 10 people that called the hotline, 6 of them was out, 6. So that left me 4 out of the 10. On the south side of the city, today I only had 4 people cutting grass. And it's so hard to keep them. I don't know what the answer is. But we hired just recently, I think it was 3. After 1 or 2 days, we lost them 3. So I don't know what the answer is of hiring people. I don't think people just don't want to work. But as you can see, everybody's spread out on that sheet. Each little division, it has to have them people. And most of the vacancies are in 632, where the grass cutting needs to take place. I just made that up so y'all would see who's who, where's where.
So, any ideas? And I think you said you don't know why, and you may not know why. We're hoping that with a little pay increase, that would help. The city has some decent benefits. And you'd mentioned that when folks come in for they'll work a couple of days or get a paycheck, and then you never see them again, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That is correct. Like I said, I don't know what the answer is. We had one guy that was hired for 2 days, and on the 3rd day, he said he wouldn't be back because he was just going to go home, not work at all, and let the government take care of him.
Okay.
Ray, most of those, let me add something, ask something, you should confirm with, most of those folks that were in the labor and utilities, entry-level folks, we're in the $13.65 an hour range, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Again, there's about 100 of those that we touched in this next coming year.
Yes,
and
sir.
we're hopeful that gets a little bit more attention than we've had before. It's, we're going forward, not backwards with regard to compensation.
Sure.
And we can't help some of the situations that you run across with the folks who happen to step in.
Yes. Yes, we've tried to help as much as we could with them as far as giving them breaks, not push them as hard. And like I said, when the people quit and they tell you that it's too hot cutting grass, I don't know. I can't afford to have another guy walk around with an umbrella over one guy cutting grass, And that's just the way it is.
All right. I think you've expressed, the challenges you have every day in doing the things that you're tasked to do. In addition to those surprises like bridges and water and those kinds of things, I think the council is appreciative of what you have to deal with. The folks you have to deal with it with, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yes, sir.
And wait, let me kind of finish. That there are challenges in the expertise and the experiences that you have to have within your staff, and what it's going to take to get them, keep them engaged, to address the things that you're on a daily basis challenged with.
Yes, sir.
And I would ask the council to ask very specific questions at this point in time, because I know we have challenges in what we're compensating people, and again, the schedule, and it's an intense agenda that you have to deal with on a weekly basis.
Paul, I got-
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Glavin.
All right, Director, again, thank you for your years of service and experience. We certainly recognize that. Last meeting, or I kind of made the comment about specifically to Public Works, and is to make sure that we have the defined goals, and I'm sure you have defined goals specifically, and you heard us talk up here about curbs, grass cutting. That's the big thing. I know you have other things to do to maintain, our systems and all that stuff. That's a whole other ballgame. But on the goal of having a schedule and crews to each and every week when the grass cutting season starts, to maintain all those ditches like our citizens expect them to, are those goals defined with crews, equipment, and a calendar or schedule to be able to fulfill that?
Yes,
Those
sir.
defined?
Yes, sir.
So when you fall short, I know that we've attempted over the last, call it 7 or 8 years or more, to have contracted services money, so you're able to pick up the phone and call a third party to be able to fulfill that. Now, I know that's difficult when today 10 people don't show up, and you can't just call somebody today to schedule it for today, because it takes a little lead time for them to get in position, but there should be a week or less for them to get in position and then take care of that goal that we're trying to achieve. Is it not possible for that to happen?
Yes, sir. In fact, I'm glad you brought that up, Kenny, because last week, the mayor and I rode down Pops Ferry with a contractor, and we're waiting on him to give us a quote as we speak today.
Let me add also to that situation, they're pretty much in the same boat we're in. I mean,
Yep.
with full crews, and I mean, to be responsive at the rates that, we, X2, what was that? They were paying people $13.65 an hour, and our burden rate was 17 something an hour.
Yeah.
So they're in the same boat we're in. So, unless they have a massive amount, like Gulf Breeze has a crew of about 100 of folks, don't you think?
Yeah, Gulf Breeze has got about 35 to 40 people
So-
that cuts vacant lots for us that we own.
Yeah. But there's a lot to do, and every 14 days you got to do it again. And I think one example, last Friday was the Friday before last, you had about 8 people on Howard Avenue doing the things that need to be cleaned from the bridge all the way to Oak Street.
Yeah.
And we were fortunate that in one afternoon, you were able to get the crew out there. 3 people had finished early enough to join themselves join the 5 that were on. So I mean, that needs to be done every 14 days.
Yeah.
And if we have multiple resources from and what is it, Neil,
Yeah, Nails Lawn Service.
and
they used the one
a
we
number
like.
of them, Taylor, and,
Taylor, and you got another one.
but getting their
waiting for him to
response is a
call me back.
challenge also.
Should we consider this going forward for 2025? In the months of June, July, and August, why don't we just say we are going to use contracted services? We're going to position those on our calendar or whatever. And if we have extra resources, I'm sure we can find some projects for those guys and girls to do. Should we consider that? June, July, and August, say, this is the quadrant or section that we are going to contract those out. And that way we can use, if we have the labor, we can use it for something else. If we fall short, we've put a plan into place to fulfill that void in that gap.
Yes, sir. I think that's what the mayor is talking about. And
Well,
trying to put it in
even
place.
between now and October 1st, I mean, there's some things that we need to do on the, the westbound lane north of,
Yeah,
on Highway 90. It's our challenge. We're contracted, we're supposed to do that. And, here comes cruising the coast. And I did notice the county today doing their part. We've got to do our part, whether it's with in-house or force account labor or X2 or whatever these things, we've got to get it done. It's not next, it's now. So we've got to do it now.
And my point is this, if we feel we don't have enough resources, contracted services, or what have you, now is the time for this next budget to get it in the budget.
yes, sir.
And if we over budget it, fine, we'll save a little money. If you have the trained labor and staff and the right teams to put together, then we just don't use as much as that. But we need a plan to use that during the peak time,
Yes, sir.
especially June, July, and August,
Sir,
especially those.
I'll give you a good example. Cruising the Coast is coming up. We have to start 3 weeks ahead of time of the actual cruising day. What we do is clean the sand off of Highway 90 on the sidewalks and stuff. And the week before actual cruising, that's when we start setting up the barricades and the cones and everything, so they'll be in place once cruising takes place.
I think what the council was talking about too, and there's a amount of resources that we do in-house, which that would be, and then have a contractual crew to do the things that they would do in place of them. But now they're pointed to, and again, X2 or whatever, Express, what was it? The folks, we asked for a resource, but that takes one or two of our folks to be alongside of them in order to do it.
Yes.
But it's a scheduling and it's an operations sort of a research kind of deal. How do you pull this off?
And I'm focusing again on the grass cutting and curb maintenance and all that stuff. But my last question is this: in addition to contracted services, your existing team that you're developing, how about the county and targeting, getting with the county and said, we need your help on this shoulder month or whatever, or maybe it's cruising or whatever. And if you put that three-prong plan in place, maybe that makes it a little easier, more efficient, going forward in this next year to make Biloxi look beautiful and wonderful and all that kind of stuff. Is that a possibility to coordinate with them and to get their commitment, maybe in May, maybe in September, to depend on that resource for them to come in and assist in some kind of capacity?
It sounds like a great idea, but we would have to work with their schedule just like anybody else.
Sure.
And if that's what we can do, I can touch base with Timmy Smith.
Yep.
In fact, he's supposed to send me a quote for them to stripe Shriners and us furnish the material, but he hasn't sent me that quote with how much material he's going to need.
Director, I mean, that's wonderful, they've always done that, but on the issue of grass cutting, curb maintenance, and ditches being maintained, if you always did what you always done, you always get what you always get, or whatever that is said, and we got to find a new way to approach this and plan for it, and if we plan it over this 5 or 6 months, I think it could be much better, possibly. Listen, I've said it 100 times. I really appreciate your guys, you working in the sun, the rain, all the elements that y'all work in. But that's a responsibility in that department to fulfill the expectations of our citizens, and we got to keep finding a better way to do things. I'm here to do whatever I can to help and assist and approve. whatever these recommendations are. I just don't want to do the same thing
Yeah.
next year and then have to answer the hard questions from citizens like y'all do too, but, to say, why is it always this way?
Yeah.
And I understand there's the reasons you've articulated it. The turnover is higher than it's ever been, and so is the contracted services. We're dealing with them. But if we all get together and coordinate things with the county, contracted services, and our own resources, and look at it a different way from a planning standpoint and a goal-setting standpoint, maybe we can get a better outcome, this coming year. We won't know unless we try.
Yeah,
So,
I understand.
okay. That's all I got on that subject. Thank you.
Since I'm down at this end, Mr. Shoemaker, anything for Mr. Allen?
Yes, sir. Just a few things. I agree with everything Councilman Glavin said. I know ditches, grass. I know it's a revolving door, it never stops. I do think that's a great idea. Maybe having some money set aside next year for the 3 or 4 months during the summer. And I know you've got some money in some contractual service budget or something, and I don't know exactly. I know some of that's for sanitation, I believe, a large chunk of that.
Well, it's used for sanitation, drainage, and water.
How much, I'm sorry, Councilman, how much is for grass cutting contractors services in the budget? How much is, or is it just in a general pot?
Right now, I gave to the mayor for 20 personnel at $17.79 an hour, $373,000 for 26 weeks.
For contracted services?
You could say that, yes.
Okay.
That was just a quote that I had got from outside sources for 26 weeks.
I'm sorry, and I missed some of, so y'all got a quote for grass cutting?
I got a quote for 20 personnel people, extra people.
Okay.
That was the quote for 26 weeks for them 20 personnel.
And what was the price on that?
$373,079, I think, yeah.
And, okay, so basically, so I know y'all are working on that, and the mayor and I have talked, and
Yeah, again, that's not dated in this budget at this point.
No, I'm not, I didn't say that.
yeah, right, I understand, yes, sir. But speaking of some of the money in the contractual services, and I know, like I said, a large amount of that, I see on here goes to the sanitation, but some of that other monies, is it possible to use any of that money? And I know, Mayor, you mentioned it a minute ago, maybe cutting some grass this year, maybe cleaning, and some ditches, some other things that we could do before October.
Yeah, and I think that may be a source, and my accounting staff will yell at me or whatever, but, if we have vacancies, which we do, right?
Yes,
Okay, in the past, we have kind of shifted that budget, since we're now going to make that budget to a contractual arrangement, given this, well, not so much overtime too, but I'm saying if we're going to have some budget, due to vacancies, I mean, we've done it in the past, you convert some of that budget into contractual services to do the things that those employees should have been doing, or could have been doing.
And again, y'all have got a lot going on. I see, obviously, you're shorthanded, and you have all the employees call out sick or call out today. Doesn't help matters.
yeah.
And maybe it can happen. And I know we're facing, a time crunch, October's coming up, but if there's money in that contractual services account that is not earmarked for anything, and I mentioned today in my opening comments for the normal meeting, I had a guy contact me today, and it's somewhat often, but that, nothing against y'all, not diminishing Public Works at all. It's just, again, you guys are busy, and I know it's constant busy all the time and shorthanded, but it's been 2 years. Maybe it hasn't been 2 years, but it's, and even talking with Nathan, there's a lot of things that hadn't been done. And I know ditches, you got to have employees that are, that can work machines, et cetera, and the backhoes and mini excavators and all that. But That's what I'm looking at. 99%, 98% of the issues in Ward 7, drainage, ditches, culverts, and grass. And I'm not exaggerating. It's just about every day. And I mean, I don't mind talking to them. I can tell them whatever. I spent 2 hours with a lady yesterday over a huge major ditch issue. But I just wonder if we don't do it now and there's money there now, next year we're going to roll into a new budget. That money's going to be put in there. And are we going to be having the same discussion next year at this time that we didn't do the things we're talking about from the previous year? If the money's already there, that's my thing. If it's there, I don't know I mean, if we don't spend that money in that account, it rolls over to something else. I don't know, do you lose that money out of that account? Or, but it just to me, and maybe that can happen. I know there's a lot of variables, but it would be fantastic if that's something we could look at. Not just the grass, but even cleaning some ditches are a major issue.
Well, we have investigated ditch cleaning, and that was very expensive with the equipment that they were going to provide from a third-party situation. What I'm waiting on, hopefully this week, is Mike Nail's response to maybe 2 crews. He's got two crews that can be engaged. And again, this specific project that will be replicated if they can do in 1 week the things that needed to be done from the Albertville line along Pops Ferry to the, all the way, to Pentecostal, or actually all the way to Margaret Sherry, and see how, whether he does have the crews available to do it. He does that in a week, he goes to another spot in the next week. So we just burning, well, I have some experience. But again, he understands, and I think we made it very clear that it needs to be done the right way. It just can't be halfway, that, it's cut and it's left around. It's got to be totally done. A little bit like what you had done on Howard Avenue.
Yep.
So, we want to pull the trigger on those opportunities sooner than later.
Yeah, David, I think, if I remember, not 100% sure, but you might ask Christie, because I think she got a quote for ditch cleaning, and I think it was very expensive, very high, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah, it was, and it was very expensive.
Yeah.
And I understand that, and that's why I say if there was money now to do it, and I'll be honest with you, some of them, I could probably go out there with a shovel myself, quite honestly, and do them, and I get some are a lot bigger. It's just, my concern is, we had the discussion today when there's money there, and next year, a lot of things still don't get done, because honestly, if we can't hire, and hopefully the pay raise will help, but if we can't get it done, then we're having the same discussion next year if there's money there. And I know it's not an easy task, and I'm not saying go dig every ditch up, but the number of complaints that have to be, I would think, I've gone and looked at them, and water doesn't run uphill, it runs downhill. So if I can look at it, and I'm no genius and no smart guy, then there's got to be some issues. So my point is, there's issues out there that at some point we're going to have to take care of, and I would just rather see it now. If we have any money that we're not using now in this, do we even have a budget with money in it? I think there's some contractual.
There's contractual services, but I don't think it's designated for any kind of ditch cleaning, because that's what we got a quote for, because it's very expensive. Now, I do know that they got to 4 or 5 of your requests ditches, I think, David. And I think you got 1 or 2 more that came in today.
Yeah, I sent a few in,
Yeah.
I think today or last
I
night.
will guarantee you this, we'll get to them. I just can't tell you when.
Oh, certainly I understand. I know you're going to get to them. That's just my concern, is how long. If they keep coming in, it just puts you guys further behind.
Sure.
And next month or the month after, we've got cruising the coast, and then we start right back over.
Yep. Yeah, it's a vicious cycle.
Oh, it is, for sure. Last question, I guess. So out of that contractual services, money can't be earmarked for ditches?
It could, if I can put it in the budget, but I don't have that call.
So that's a mayor call.
But we need to, like I said, as soon as we get these quotes from these folks to do the things, we can actually, what is the real dollar value for their crews to do what we tell them to do? And if there's 5 crews, we should be able to find, a shift from what we would have been doing with force account labor to that in order to get these things done as rapidly as we can. I don't have the answer to that question.
right.
But we will get that answer very shortly.
Yeah.
Because 2 weeks ago is when we met with this guy, and he was
Yeah.
supposed to understood, the scope of what we're asking him to do.
That's for grass cutting.
Yeah.
And finish, everything, along the curbs and stuff that had never been touched.
Right, oh, yeah. It's-
And that, when you stop at a stoplight and you look around and see the grass overgrown, and especially cruising, I mean, and that's multiple places. Not all of us, I mean, the
Right.
county has the same situation, but
Yeah, that's like the ditches that you're talking about. A lot of them can be weed eated if you got the personnel to take care of the problem and the complaints. But then you got some ditches where you gotta literally put a machine in there and dig it out and scrape it.
Right.
And that's the part that we do not have 100%.
Director Allen, thank you. I appreciate it, and that's all I have.
All right, Mr. McGilvery, anything?
Just a couple. Mayor, if I understand it right, the research that y'all are doing together reference cutting that grass and everything, that's immediate. That's going to take
that's right.
place.
As soon as we know that,
Soon as we can get the
we know
facts
that,
and-
we're going to test that solution provided, and that's just one street. Okay,
Right.
we got multiple streets that we can apply that same, contractor or other contractors. We'll know what for supposedly so how many curb feet that you got to trim, and there's a lot of places in the city where you've got 2 or 3 feet of grass in between a sidewalk and a curb, and you got grass going from 3 different directions that needs to be, taken care of. And this is pretty much, that part of the city is representative of about 8 other places that we can,
Yeah.
that need to be done that same way. We'll get to figure out what what it's going to take to do that thing along Pops Ferry, and then we can replicate that to Highway 90, we can replicate that to Division Street, and, and other places. We've got a tremendous amount of that sort of thing, even after the North contract. A lot of things, from an engineering standpoint, the grass is growing where it shouldn't be growing, even after we rebuilt things. So, I mean, but that's all part of the, the bar we're trying to have, a clean, well-kept city.
100%. So that, if I understood it again, that's something immediately is going to take place.
it.
We're not waiting until next year.
No.
Okay.
But that's going to give us an idea, even if we get in October 1, what it's going to take. Because the grass growing season is between May and October, really.
Right.
Yeah.
So you can dollarize it and measure, this is what we're facing.
Okay, just a couple other questions. Director, you say you had 19 openings,
Yeah.
and there's the funded positions, I'm sure.
Yep.
Do you have any applications
Yep.
under review? And do you think the mayor's proposal regarding bringing that hourly wage up is going to be a positive for you to do that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think so, too. That's all I have.
All right, Ms. Newman? Mr. Guines?
Yeah, just wanted to say, you guys, I believe you guys are headed in the right direction. With the shortage of the workforce, we're working on things now to put in place, because once we have a big fire, you're pulling resources from one side going to the other. We get behind the 8 ball.
Yes, sir.
And then, we got to play catch up the rest of the summer. So right now, putting that in place, I appreciate hearing that. So I heard everything I needed to hear in that area. And of course, this is splendidly broke all the way down elementary style. So
Yep.
it gives us an idea. So I'm satisfied. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Guines. A couple of things. I'm looking at numbers, and Mr. Allen, you may not be able to answer these. Diane, if you don't mind, you might be in a better position. On, let's see, 01611, 6234 diesel, we budgeted 60,000 for that this year. Are we budgeting the same amount next year?
We're budgeting 40.
40?
Do you not have a copy of what was distributed?
Ma'am?
Do you not have a copy of all the reports that were distributed?
We do, but we didn't get them till we got here. But I'm looking at last year's.
Well, they were distributed yesterday.
Well, we didn't get them in our mailboxes today. That's not on the mayor. That's on the clerks. But So next year, we're budgeting for diesel 40,000, did you say? Okay. And then on 6270, which is resurfacing, we've only spent about 40, as of the end of July, about 40% of that 50,000. Is that being reduced as well?
It's being reduced to 40.
Thank you. And then Foundry, which is 6272, 5,500, is that?
It's being reduced to 2,500.
Thank you. And then electrical, 6606. We'd spent about 40% at the end of July. That was
Being
budget.
reduced to 115.
Thank you. And then for land/build, 6623. That was budgeted at the end of July.
It's being reduced to 0 because that was the contract for Mississippi Power, but it's being coded to electrical, and it was supposed to be separated out, and it hasn't been.
Gotcha, thank you. Other contingencies, 800,000 was budgeted, and at the end of July, only a quarter of that had been spent. Was that being reduced as well?
You mean other contractual services?
Excuse me, other contractual services, yes,
No,
ma'am.
it is not being reduced because that is where some funding for grass cutting as well as other special projects are.
Okay, do you have, you may not have a current figure as of today, how much of that 800,000 has been spent?
I do. There's only 377 remaining.
Okay, so we're 3/4 of the way through and about 400,000 is left. We only spent half of that to date?
A little more than half.
Okay. We should spend it earlier for grass cutting. All right. Let's see. The only other thing I want to note is we just had, under Director Staff, Streets and Drainage Control System, Bridge Operation, Vehicle Maintenance, and Building Maintenance. We've run over in each of those categories. I don't know if that's all overtime or holiday or whatever you may want. I know you're aware of that. It's just for next year. But that's, I believe that's all I have. Anybody else, final question? Any questions about water and sewer? I mean, it's a proprietary account. I really don't see that impacting the general fund, so I don't have any questions. Anybody have questions about water and sewer? As long as it works, we're good. Thank you, Mr. Allen. Appreciate it. Next, I'd like to go to the other proprietary account, which is the port. Mrs. Johnson, thank you for being here. You're welcome to make a comment if you like, an opening statement or whatever.
Pull the mic up closer.
You don't, nothing to say?
I'm not
Okay.
very loud.
All right, any questions on the port, our other proprietary account? Mr. Shoemaker, I can come back to you if you like, or no questions? All right, Mr. Glavin, any questions? You want me to come back to you?
I'm good. So contracted services, are you familiar with the budget and these expenses and where they go?
Yes.
Okay, so in contracted services, can you tell me what those expenses are allocated for?
Sorry. It's just our copy machines and our credit cards and stuff like that. And MDEQ tank fees, that's what other contractual services are.
So you said it's for copying machines and what else?
We have credit card fees. We do security on our buildings, like the tapper. And MDEQ, there are tank fees for our fuel tanks.
Okay, and the proposed amount, if I'm looking at your sheet here, is $365,000. Does that jive with what you have on your operational report, or are we missing something?
Yeah. 10,000.
Port Enterprise Fund, where did this pull from? It says 365,000, so is there other,
Can you show me what paper you have?
It's from something I put together
Yeah.
based on the departmental budgets, that the mayor had a spreadsheet that we've always updated each week, so this came
yeah.
from what was the date?
So is that possibly some other maintenance that's required, or inspections, or?
5,000 in contractual service.
Oh, that's the full amount. That's every piece of contractual services.
That's related to the port?
Right, and that includes 187,000 for an admin fee, where the general fund sends back IT, attorney, accounting, HR fees.
What,
All right, so that's kind of like an allocation that's paid back on some other funds
Correct.
that
But
we are
that-
using to
Right. We do
oversee
it to
the
the
port.
proprietary funds. It goes to
Gotcha.
water, sewer, and the port.
Yep.
But that contractual amount is made up of multiple accounts. It's all the 6 accounts.
Okay. What are some of the goals for the port this year? I mean, I talked about goals in public works, so what are some of the goals that we need to achieve, in our ports this year?
We need to update a lot of our electrical and our piers and stuff like that, so we can have more tenants come in and stuff like that, the boat owners. So we have a lot of maintenance to do.
kind of address a number of the collapses that took place too, over the years of
Yeah, we've had a lot
dredging.
of
Yeah.
issues and dredging and stuff like that. We did.
So does this budget satisfy that?
It does.
So we'll be able to take care of those electrical upgrades, whatever, to be able to get those slips perfect condition, ready for these boats. I notice all the activity down there. There's more and more boats I think I've seen in a long, long time. So that's a good thing. But in order to maintain that, we got to have first-class port. So, Mayor, you're satisfied with the?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, with the capital projects and the floating docks are very successful. I heard a lot of good comments back. And, the people were kind of skeptical of floating at the point in time and asked questions about how high it's going to get if a storm comes. But I think a lot of folks have, eyes have opened, and the project is $5 million to do 27 slips, but we got a number of slips to go towards back to the east. So I think, the more successful we are with the Go Mesa and some of these other projects, we can have that throughout at least Point Cadet Marina. Small craft harbors has been successful. We like to do more things there, but anything's possible given time and money, and we're trying to search for both of them, time and money.
All right, and then my last question, of course, would be, especially at the ports, the security systems, has that been addressed? Do we have enough cameras? Do we have enough personnel to make sure, people's belongings are secure and safe? And
We do, and we just added some more cameras. We're pretty well covered. And as far as the security, we're fully staffed, so we are
okay,
doing well with that.
all right, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Clabb. Mr. McGilvery, anything? Nothing. Ms. Newman? Mr. Guines, anything?
Yep, just heard you guys been doing a great job out there. People who've been having a little issues and problems, you guys have been addressing them and taking care of, so thank you for that.
Let me add, our director has been there a long time and in the trenches and working like a Trojan, in what you've been doing over the, last several years. So I'm appreciative of, not having to worry, and I don't think we have to worry. Things happen, they'll get attention, and I'm comfortable with where we need to go and be, in 25 and on into the future.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Just a couple of things on 6405 legal. I guess that's general. We budgeted 25,000, and we hadn't spent all of that. Is that I don't know what kind of legal work you had. I imagine working at harbors, there's always something legal happening where you need an attorney, I would bet. But I would just assume 25 is a pretty standard figure for that. Diana, okay, thank you. The occupancy at Point Cadet, about what % of the slips are
We are at 50%, but a lot of our slips are in the next phase of construction, so we kind of
Right.
holding off and using that and making revenue from the tournaments in that area.
All right. And what could we do to increase the number of occupied berths? I know we're doing this phased improvement, but this will be phase 3 coming up, I think. Have they finished phase 2?
No, phase 2 is set to begin, and I think once that's completed, I think we're gonna get a lot more tenants down there. They love the floating docks. And we don't have enough floating docks for the people who want them, so,
Who did the work on the floating docks?
Roy
I
Anderson.
don't know. Roy?
Corporate Bellingham Marine was.
Yeah,
Okay. All right. So, yeah, I'm not a boater, but
yeah,
they look cool.
yeah, they're very nice.
Okay.
Councilman, there's a reason why we don't want to be 100%. If we get 100% capacity or high capacity, we wouldn't be able to host all those tournaments.
We just built a phase 4, right, Mayor? Yeah. Put them out there at the Secretary of State's Pier at Deer Island.
Relationship with him.
Okay. Thank you. No, and I know we're making improvements. I'd like to see us get more boats in there. I'm sure everybody would. Any other questions? There being none, thank you, Mrs. Johnson. All right, next up, let's move to engineering. Ms. Labata. Opening comment or none, or?
None.
Okay. We'll start, Mr. Guines, with you in engineering. Any questions?
No, I don't have any at this point.
Okay, Miss Newman? All right, Mr. McGilvery?
Just one quick question. Are you fully staffed in your
Technically, I have 2 vacancies that we're using to fund the contract service that Mr. Patala was providing. But other than that, I don't have any immediate plan to fill those vacancies at this time.
Okay, that's all I have.
Mr. Glavin, anything?
Yeah, earlier meeting, you said you had, how many, 4?
I have 3 engineers, myself and 2 engineers, and then a construction manager.
And everyone is fully certified and has all their credentials?
Yes, I have 1 licensed engineer, I have 1 graduate engineer, which means he's graduated from school, doesn't have a PE, but there's still functions he can perform, and then the construction manager.
Okay. And earlier, when we were talking about attending meetings, so they, all 4 are certified and capable of attending the meetings?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. I don't have any other questions.
Mr. Shoemaker, anything? One question on line item 6689, which is the budget matter, which deals with software. Budgeted, I think the revised figure was 56,000. At the end of July, I had that only 20% of that was spent. Are you looking to?
Yeah, we'll spend every bit of that. Some of our big purchases, CityWorks and Esri, don't come out towards the end, till the end of the year. It should be coming out really any day now.
Okay, then that's not unusual. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Abide. Do we need to swear you in? Or swear at you? Would you like an opening statement, Counselor?
I'll waive the opening statement.
All right, all right. Mr. Shoemaker, any questions of Mr. Abide?
I do not have any questions.
Mr. Glavin?
So earlier, we were talking about some of the expenses that are being allocated to other departments, such as legal and from the port. Does this budget, this $1,950,000, include those allocations that come over and satisfy this number?
Yeah, this includes the entire court department, all of the staffing in municipal court. It includes the prosecutors, the judges, the public defender we have, and all the office supplies, everything in this middle section, that's all municipal court. Really everything in the top column, the top segment is all municipal court and their salaries. Neither I or any of the attorneys that work under me are on any salary, so there's no
Retainer.
no benefits or anything like that. There's no retirement or health insurance included in that. The overall legal picture, I think we're very stable. I don't think we have anything new or new going on, or we seem to have, any of the Tidelands issues have sort of worked themselves out, we think. We generally had some issues during the session and some increased costs there. The Oscarenda case is still ongoing, and it may start up again in the middle of next year. If it does, it could probably use up half of the legal fees could go into that for experts. But I think we've managed pretty well. I think overall this year, our expended legal fees we're well below where I think with a month left to go in the year, I think have spent less than 2/3, maybe 60%. So all that excess will go back into the budget here, so.
Thank you for that. Is there any chance that we have to consider annexation in the next year? Any annexation activity?
Nothing I've been aware of.
Okay.
That I've been heard about, other than a friendly annexation.
Okay, all right.
May-
That's
might-
all I got.
Might depend on what other mayors are elected along the coast, right? Yeah,
So that's always the case.
all right.
All right.
Thanks, Ken. Mr. Shoemaker, anything?
No, I don't have anything.
Okay. Peter, you had mentioned, I think there are two line items, 6405, which I think is legal general. We'd budgeted, let's see, originally 805,000. It was revised to 750,000. You're right. We'd only spent about maybe a third of that, I guess, this year. You said it's kind of been a good year,
An efficient year, yes.
efficient year.
Yeah.
And then 6432, it just says other professional services, maybe, I'm guessing.
That's the prosecutors and the,
Okay.
that's a number of things that really deal with things in the municipal court.
Gotcha. Okay. And next year, Diana, for legal on 6405, what are you looking to budget for that next year? 805, okay. I got it. All right, that's all I have. Any other questions, Mr. Abide, while he's still under oath? All right. Thank you.
Plead the
Thank you.
fifth.
Thank you, Peter. Appreciate it.
Under the advice of my attorney.
Okay, that leads us to the consigliere over there, Mr. Leonard, the administration department. Mike, you're welcome to open with a statement if you like.
Yeah, as you know, there's a lot of cats and dogs in this department. I think the council is aware that it includes accounting, human resources, clerks.
Yeah. All right, we'll start with Mr. Guines. Mr. Guines, anything?
Nope.
All right, Miss Newman? Nothing. Mr. McGilvery?
No, sir.
Mr. Glavin?
I'm good.
Mr. Shoemaker?
I have nothing.
On item 6674, election 2025, we have a figure for that, I assume. What do we,
155.
155? Okay, thank you, Diana. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Leonard, for that comprehensive report.
Man,
All right.
you're getting smarter by the year.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Mayor.
Sir,
I'm always hesitant to give you an opportunity to speak because you never stop, but go ahead.
Okay, what do you want me to speak about?
Fire away.
Well, I think we're going to try and get into capital projects, or where would you like to go at this point in time?
No, let's go with the,
The executive department, right?
yeah, I'm looking at just your departmental.
I think one of the takeaways that you should have in this one is the printing and binding number, along with the other professional services. There's a lot of money there. That's your B News, who's, my understanding is WXXV has nominated B News as the citizen's choice for Biloxi.
Publications, yeah.
And I think you'll all agree it's a very successful publication in terms of getting our story out. And is worth that $290,000.
Well,
Yeah.
I think from a business as usual, there's nothing we really buried from over the last 4 or 5 years. Is that not right? Other than that it's increased by 5-6%, something like that over the last. I really haven't.
Mailing costs go up. Printing costs go
Yeah.
up.
Sorry.
But everything else is.
You have any questions?
Same
Mr.
old.
Glavin?
You know,
Mr. Shoemaker? I'm sorry.
I don't have any questions.
Any questions on this end? Give me just a minute. All right, I don't have anything, Mr. Mayor. Wait, one last, no, I don't have any. I don't have any questions at this time, thank you. On the legislative or council, Gary, I'm thinking there were a couple of things that we added. I don't know if you remember off the top of your head. One was we wanted $8,000 in the budget, which I think was added for a compensation study. And for some reason, I'm thinking there was something else that we added as well. Do you recall? Yeah, I thought maybe we did. What is the postage? Right? 3,000, okay. Okay, I don't use postage, but I know we have 2 new councilmen, and there are mail-outs for your ward meetings and everything, and I don't think to my recollection, I don't think we've ever budgeted, if everybody had a meeting or 2 a year, we've never had enough money for all the mail-outs and what the postage would cost. So if the administration would make that note to bring that back to, did you say it was 5,600? Thank you.
Okay, but in '22, we only spent $300, and in '23, we only spent $2,600. And when I ran my report in July, we'd spent $2. So if we can cut other departments for not spending money, shouldn't the same thing apply here?
Well, yeah, it should. So we'll cut it back to 5,500.
So you're taking away $100.
Take away $100 because, again, we have 2 new councilmen. I don't send out any mail-outs, not a problem for me, but it could well be a challenge for them if they're trying to notify their constituents. But I appreciate the question. Thank you. Anything else? Okay, thank you, Gary. Yep. All right. Thank you. That brings us to capital projects. I don't know who's going to handle capital projects.
Everybody has this listed really real quickly through the projects that were ongoing and working or described here. Rachel will be providing up to, I think, in August detail very shortly. The 30 or so projects are in place. You know, the main and I'll get to 25 on the additions that we'll doing some amendments or some changes to the sourcing for probably 4 new sets of projects. The main thing in this capital list is, of course, the Pops Ferry extension. That's a $20 million deal that we're getting ready to fire off, and that has really significantly changed our opportunity in development. That's the main goal, and finishing the rest of them, or, we're going to do it as fast as we can. But we have identified, of course, in the 2024 bond, $5.2 million we allocated for Division Street, the building for Division Street, $2 million initially invested, plus an addition to the about a 15,000 feet lean-to and site prep. That puts us at about a 2.6, I think, million based on the bids we have in that, plus 1.6 or 1.8 for the fire station. That was out of that $5 million bond. That leaves a little bit, but those are the two big projects that we will have a resolution. It may already be in place for 118 and then the Division Street building, as well as the fire station number 5. That was the purpose of that $5 million bond, and it does leave some 170 or so, I think, remaining to be done. But also there from the 23 bond or 2022 bond, about $160,000 in Parks and Rec equipment and things that will be, placed at various parks. And I think I gave you a spreadsheet of where they were going to go. But that's about $160,000 of that equipment that will be spread across the parks and recreation throughout the city. Swing sets, playground equipment. One other project that I think, but it's not a big project, but we want to over the years, the bridge has been used as a great a great feature, the Biloxi Ocean Springs Bridge. We've got some engineering and hopefully working with MDOT in order to make a ramp off the curve at, comes down to Myrtle Street, instead of having to walk all the way down, exit into one of our parking lots so people can park on the Biloxi side instead of Ocean Springs. It's about $110,000, $115,000. But that's a project that would, provide a beautiful access to that beautiful piece of property. And those are the 4 kinds of things that, that we'll be adding to the capital projects list for 2025, in addition to what you already have here.
Mr. Shoemaker, questions on capital projects? And not really any? Okay. Mr. Glavin?
Yeah, I got a couple. So I'm looking at sediment removal phase 2. There's money allocated in that capital project, and I look down to the very last column where it says dredging project at Brazier Bayou. There's
that
zero.
Should be 400,000.
It should be 400,000.
100,000, yeah.
In that one, and the Malpas Landing that we were going to do a little work in there. Is that going to be in capital projects? In Malpas Landing, the swell in the back, or has that been taken? 1073 in capital projects, or and will that finish up this year or be in next year's budget?
It really just.
So it's just lumped into this number here, municipal repairs?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it's all just lumped in there together.
Okay.
We may not get to it before the end of the year, but this money rolls over.
It would
so
roll over.
before the
Okay.
end of this fiscal year.
Okay. And then, Mayor, I know I see the sportsplex and everything in here. I know we talked about, it'd be nice when we finish the sportsplex, get all those fields play ready, that the rest of the facilities look play ready too. And I know we talked about scoreboards that we might be able to get some third party or some, whether it's sponsors or whatever, but, and then we said we were going to paint some of the buildings and stuff like that. That was in the works with the county. But I just want to make sure we take a good look at it. So when we open the doors or recut a ribbon or whatever, and people flood in there to see what it's going to look like, they really can see that it looks like
Top notch.
it's ready to
It needs
go.
to be the fence. I don't know if you visited the fence, but I walked the fields yesterday afternoon. There's some challenges as far as smoothing and I guess irrigation, sprinkler heads and so forth that need to be addressed. And I think we're on Tally's radar about getting this thing super ready. We've done, the lights at the tennis courts are outstanding. Again, it's going to be state of the art, I think, by the time we do the cleaning and the painting. Again, we spent significant money in scraping and doing some of the things that were not part of the construction, but part of the complex. We do have some dollars, squirreled away to address some of the things that may pop up. I know one big thing was we were about $400,000 worth of repair, or actually resurfacing some of the things that the construction laydown areas tore up. But I think the additional parking is in play, but there's going to be some challenges with the heat and the field sustainability, under given situations. But we did visit it yesterday, and they know we're expecting great things out of that complex.
Yes, sir. One question I have on the new parking area, and I haven't seen the plans on this specifically, but lighting, because if we have any late evening or spills into the night, that the lighting is right, and then safety issues as they get back on that main thoroughfare, not main thoroughfare, but on Tribe Drive, that it is safe and marked appropriately and illuminated however it needs to be illuminated. I think that needs to be looked at.
Okay,
So-
we'll take a look at that.
Okay, that's all I got. Thank you.
All right, Mr. McGilvery, anything?
No, sir.
Ms. Newman, anything? Mr. Gaines, anything? Nope. Couple of questions to whoever wants to field them. Are we looking at, are we anticipating or planning or projecting any new capital projects in this next fiscal year?
Just these mentioned, there's the 5 that I mentioned right there.
Okay. And I didn't pick up on them. If you don't mind,
Yeah.
just send me an email or make me a note. and
No,
just-
we'll have these updated, sometime through August. This was July 7th. We'll have this for next week, and I think we'll have some resolutions that will actually source these new projects that we're doing for '25.
Okay. On the ramp off the Ocean Springs Bridge, I didn't,
Now, it's sort of a stairway and a ramp to come down to our side parking lot, which is, part of the
so it's a pedestrian walkway? Okay, all right. And do you anticipate any of the projects listed here closing in this next fiscal year that we'll finish?
several.
Yes, I don't know what all is on the list that y'all have, but we'll be closing out I don't know if Point Cadet Marina West is off your list. Its construction's finished, but we're finalizing that now.
Can you give me a project number on that if you don't have it?
1024.
1024, okay.
That's the harbor, yeah, the Point Cadet Marina.
Closed out.
1047, Tanglewood Infrastructure, this phase 2 of the water will be closing out and finishing. We will be starting phase 1 of the sewer in that, which I think we did under a separate capital project, so 1047 ought to be closing out.
Sports complex tennis.
Sports complex, yes, and the tennis course lights, those will be closing out.
What's the project number on that, Christie, if you don't mind?
Sports complex,
1110,
yeah,
1110.
and then 1093.
1093, okay.
And I think that, sports lighting, we did that. I think that'll be everything should be closing out this year.
Then we have the Bay Vista water lines and well, that's all one project, right?
The well, it's all in one capital project. The well's going to is already out to bid and is in the process of being awarded. And then the water lines We are going to have those out to bid before the end of the year. They're about 60% designed right now.
And I just need to be sure this is on somebody's radar. Edgewater Estates, again, they have water line issues out there. I think,
Yes.
I know Billy Ray's aware of that, and it's kind of the same situation, I think, as Bay Vista.
Yes.
So I don't know when we get to that, but on my wish list after the water lines in Bay Vista, that'd be the next spot
Next
for
one.
water lines. Any work slated on that section of Pops Ferry Road between Pass Road and the Pops Ferry Bridge? I get more
As
complaints
far
on
as
that.
resurfacing, we identified the issue with regard to where the sewer is in the middle of the road, and that's a significant multi-million-dollar deal. Our focus is, first of all, completing, one thing that we will complete is the repair to the Pops Ferry Bridge mechanism, the rehab.
Right.
That's number one. Then, of course, the Pops Ferry extension, which are the two heavy hitters in our list. There may be some things pop loose as far as what we could do with the amount of the 973, is that what that is?
Right, that's right.
973?
That's right.
But at this point, I don't think we're going to use anything to resurface or reroute. The problem with the manholes, it's in the middle of the drive path, not in the center of the roadway.
And some of that, when they improve that intersection at Pops Ferry and Pass Road
It'll
with
take-
the extension, that's going
Yes.
to.
You got to be about 200 feet of that, right?
Right, it'll take, and if by some grace of God, we get extra money from somewhere that falls, we probably will take that Potts Ferry extension and do as much of that as we can.
Right.
If we get that gets allocated to us for this project, because, we've got lots of still grant applications out there that we haven't been awarded. If there's a possibility, we will, but not.
Let me say what would be possible, especially at the time we closed 2-3 weeks worth of the bridge repair. I mean, and I'm not sure what the sequence is and how long it would be at one point in time. There may be an opportunity at that point to work from the outside in, from the bridge, and then from Pass Road, Pops Ferry. So, I mean, we're just going to have to play that by ear, and I think we'll squirrel away some of that money. If we can do something in a few weeks with regard to improving it, at least to Atkinson Road,
Right.
Improving that, and maybe a little bit further than Atkinson. I don't know, we have a lot of manholes between Atkinson's and south of Atkinson.
Yeah.
But at we would like to pull the trigger, if possible, at the time we got that road shut down for the bridge repair.
Right, correct.
Is there a window, maybe too early to tell, on replacing that motor on the bridge?
Well, it's
roughly?
really hard to guess. We would hope that we'll be under construction by maybe this time next year. It's hard to guess because it's MDOT funded, and that's kind of what's hanging us up right now, is getting the MDOT paperwork in place with our consultants. It has to have the
Say no
audited
more
every-
with MDOT. No, say no
Yeah.
more with MDOT. Okay.
Let me mention one other, it's
sir.
not on any radar at this point in time, but we have a Go Mesa project, which will be another combination of outfalls at White Avenue, 4-1. So I had confirmation from DMR that will be moving forward. So that's, we've got a number of outfalls to merge, but there are 4 from, White Avenue towards the east that will be combined into one. It might not be the wave, but it'll be something that will be significant as far as not seeing those pipes.
Okay, that's a good thing.
It's about I think it's 1.6 million, Mike? The outfall? Yeah, I think it's 1.6 million.
Any other questions on capital projects? Either end?
I got
Mr.
one more
Lavin.
comment.
Mr. Colombo.
I got one more comment. So back on the dredging project, the 400,000, I understand it may not cost that much for the Brazier Bayou. The bayou that we dredged several years ago, can it be assessed to see what the depth is? Because I think we had a 10-year window when we initially dredged that canal, that it would allow us to go back in and maintain it in a 10-year window. So if we can
take a
just
look
take a
at it.
look at that, and if we do have a little money left over to dredge a little bit of it, that would be great.
Okay.
That's all I got.
All right, thank you. I think this is a good spot to stop for the day. We'll have our meeting at 4 o'clock, and I don't know if you found a handout like this at your table, Mayor or Mike or whatever, and that's just my thoughts for what they're worth on where maybe we could look at saving money or generating a little more revenue, trying to get that pay raise for the other employees from 3 to 5%. I know you work with us on that. You work hard with us on that?
Working hard.
Always working hard.
Councilman, how is this going to work with the non-department? Are you going to have a show of hands vote?
We'll do that at our next workshop. We ought to be able to nail that down.
Okay.
That's what we're looking to do, and I know I'm getting calls from folks, when will we know something, and so we'll cover that. That'll be our next topic, and also really have a good look at the budget, the departmental budgets, and see what we want to do and what we want to nail down, and hopefully wade through a lot of decisions at this next budget workshop on the 3rd at 4 o'clock. Okay? We have a public budget hearing, and Mayor, will your office have some sort of budget or a handout or something available for that? So everybody's looking at the same thing in terms of the proposed budget?
For the council, everything will be updated.
Okay, will that be available to the public too, or something available to the public?
Yeah, not in detail, but yeah, I think, the first page which kind of describes by category and
All right, well, if there's some sort of, at least some summary information that's available, so they'll know what they're commenting on. So, all right, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'd like to adjourn the
Clavin?
meeting, and I'm meant to do this in our regular meeting, but I'd like to adjourn the meeting in memorandum of John Michael O'Keefe Sr. He was real instrumental in a lot of things. Of course, his father was two-term mayor, but he also led a coalition when the federal government was trying to store nuclear waste in the Mississippi salt domes. He led a coalition to successfully thwart that. So I'd like to make that motion.
Would be fair to say we all second that? All right, we all second that. All in favor of adjourning? It's a 6-0 vote for the clerk. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Hello?
oh, okay, Ben.
7 o'clock at the facility in Gulfport.
Ben's
And we're just getting out of our meeting.
So Schragan's
We just finished it, we just adjourned, we hit the gavel.